Test, test. Okay, so this is the Google Drive tips and tricks, Harker Lunch and Learn. And there's Keith. Can you hear me? I can see him.
Hello?
Hi. Oh, I hear you.
Okay. I was trying to find the video, so I just redid the whole thing. So
Perfect. And you can hear me okay then?
yes.
Great. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I tend not to get a ton of people actually able to come live, but I record it and go through. And the good news is, if you have any questions as we go through, I'm all ears. So
I need to leave at is that 11:44 for another meeting?
Go crazy. Leave at like 11:40.
Okay.
Give yourself some wiggle room. But
Okay.
thank you for letting me know.
Sure.
I'm just going to continue on as though I'm talking to myself so that I can get the whole thing recorded.
Okay.
But yeah, so going to go over Google Drive, and Rosalind's here too. Yay. And so I have a couple assumptions that I'm making. One assumption is that you know how to log in and you use Chrome as your primary browser. And the reason I kind of state those up front is because we only have 45 minutes, and the stuff that I want to cover it rests on sort of those assumptions in part. So we're going to go over settings. Ooh, I got to fix that. Settings and searching, and we're just talking within Drive. There's a little bit of stuff that I'm going to do that has that's specific to Docs, but has applicability across all the applications. My Drive and Share Drives, sharing a document versus using shared drives. And then we're going to talk about some fun stuff that's actually within the menus themselves, regardless of the application that you're using within Drive. And then a fun Chrome extension that I love using for various reasons. So I'm going to talk about settings and searching. So one of the things that Google does really well across the board is they have a very consistent GUI, or graphical user interface. So no matter which application you're in, the same icons are going to look the same regardless of where you are. So I'm going to go into my live version of my Drive, and the settings are up here in this upper right hand corner. It's the little gear shift. A couple things that I want to point out to you just to be aware of. Oftentimes if people are uploading documents, they want to make sure that they convert those uploaded files to Google Docs editor format. Unless you are a really, really heavy duty user of another application, because Google Drive really serves as a storehouse, you can upload any type of document, or any type of file, I should say, into Drive. And so if there is an associated Google Drive application, like a Docs or PowerPoint, or slides or sheets, then this allows it to upload to that particular format, which allows for easier editing. Another thing that I like to point out is this density setting. There are 3 settings: comfortable, cozy, and compact. And comfortable, you'll see what happens in the background here is that it makes there be more space between each line. That is easier on the eyes. I, for now, like to have it in compact because I like to have the most information as possible on my screen at any given time, so that I spend less time scrolling. And then of course, cozy is somewhere in between. but it really has to do with your own personal preferences. And I think ultimately what we're talking about is skimming kind of milliseconds off of your productivity, and or off of your workflow. And so those genuinely do add up. The suggestions are fine. I've never used them myself, but I do have them checked. Notifications is an interesting one because you want to make sure that this box is checked where it says email, get all updates about Google Drive items via email. So when a document is shared with you, if suddenly you discover that you aren't getting updates when you've shared a document with somebody and you've asked them to comment, but you're not getting an email when they comment on it, you can check this box and ensure that that happens. Maybe that's already set up by default, and that's fantastic. But if not, it's a good thing to double check. So I'm going to click done on that. The other thing, the other two pieces in settings that I want to point out before we jump into sharing is the ability to switch between grid view and list view. So I have all of my stuff in list view and it is alphabetical. If I switch to grid view, it's going to give me a thumbnail view of each of these documents and items that I have in here, whether it's a video or a presentation. And I honestly find it most useful to have my stuff in list view, with the exception of one particular folder that I have that's called slides templates. So these are all of the template presentations that I have, and they're named really obscurely. And that isn't helpful for me, but if I change that to grid view in a second, you'll see that it becomes really useful. So now I can see and I can scroll through all of the different options.
Will it kill you if we do a sound check?
No, not at all.
Okay,
Go for it. Sorry, they're doing a, the jazz band is setting up outside my office. So they're getting ready. So if you're thinking in terms of visuals and wanting to see visual things, the grid view is really, really helpful. Otherwise, I pretty much stay in list view. The other thing I want to point out is the little I button. So the I button overall gives you, when I just click on my drive, it is addressing the information for my drive. So I can see of all the documents that are within my drive, Rhonda has been editing some items because she does the lunch counts over at the lower school. And so as kids come in late, she edits some of these spreadsheets. Now, if I were to click on a particular document, it doesn't even matter. If I click on a particular document, it'll give me more information. In addition, it will also allow me to see at a glance the thumbnail and where is it, who's the owner, and some of that basic information. So that's that. I'm going to jump into searching really quickly. So one of the things you need to know is that there are essentially 3 buckets within Drive. There's My Drive, and whenever you create a new document or file, or you upload a file, that is automatically going to go into My Drive. The second place that documents and files exist is in Shared With Me. So if something is shared with you, then it shows up here in Shared With Me. Finally, there's Shared Drive. So those are your 3 buckets. What I like to do on a semi-regular basis is click just once on the first the first file within Shared With Me, select all of them, and I do that on a Mac by doing Command A, and then dragging and dropping them into My Drive. And it says 50 selected because there are only 50 within my particular within my drive that I haven't formally already moved. So now I can close this. And the reason it's important for me to periodically take everything in shared with me and move it into my drive is because when I search, it's only going to search, it's only going to search the bucket that I have selected over here on the left. So if I choose my drive, it's only going to search my drive. Now there is a way within settings to choose the owner is anyone owned by me, not owned by me, or specific person. And that can be really useful. But again, that's only contingent upon it being in my drive. So then, of course, this within Drive, you can come here and you can search anywhere my drive, shared drives. But again, it's not, you know, and you can just say, okay, I want to search my shared with me, but it takes one step out of the equation if I take everything in shared with me and dump it into my drive. So all of this information is here. You can choose any type. This, I find this particularly useful when I'm looking for, say, presentations or things like that I've done before. So if I want to search for all presentations that are owned by me that are about Google that I have saved in here, okay, so now I have these two particular documents. And you'll see that the shortcut up here is written out for you. So owner, me, title, Google. So if you're the kind of person who likes to type things out, then you can do that there as well. All right, so let me go back to the presentation. So that's that. So one fun thing, and I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but that's why we're recording it so that you can see it later. If I go to my settings, and you get a little background music while I do this. Is it too distracting?
No.
Okay. If you go to your Chrome settings, so this is where earlier when I said one of the assumptions is that you use Chrome, down here, go into your settings, go to search engine, and then manage search engines. You can actually, does it still let you do this? No. Come here and type in, if it's not already under other search engines, click add, and your drive.google.com is a search engine unto itself. And you can change any of these keywords. So if I come here, so the search engine is Google Drive, and the keyword is Drive, and then the URL with a percentage sign in place of the query. So what you'll see here is it's actually drive.google.com/drive/search, and then this question mark Q equals %S is a pretty standard set of characters put in that particular order that stands in the place for any search that you might do. My point is, and the goal here, is that when you open a new tab, what that allows me to do is if I type in Drive, and all I've done is type in Drive in my address bar, and then I hit the space bar, and now I'm going to search for Harker, it's actually going to search directly in my Google Drive. So I don't have to go to Drive and then search. I can just use my address bar as the search engine itself, and you can see that it's pre-slugged Harker into my search results, and now it's going to pull up all sorts of Harker things. So that's kind of a fun workaround and second saver. You can color organize your folders if you weren't previously aware of this. If I hover over any one of these and I right click, I can choose change color. And then I used to color code a lot more regularly, and I don't anymore. Excuse me. But it is a nice way to have a visual differentiation. Don't know if you were aware of this, but you can in fact pull text from images by using open with. So I'm just going to do a quick search of any image that I may have in here and hope that one of them actually has some. Okay, so this is an image that I know has some text in it. And if I right click and choose open with and then Google Docs, it uses optical character recognition and pulls the text out of that image. So this is why when we talk about, like, there's very few truly safe or secured documents anymore, because with optical character recognition, it literally just pulls that information out of the image itself, and I can edit this however I so choose. Now, it's not going to edit the image itself, but it still gives me the information and the text. And the notifications I covered. So within a document itself, I can shorten a long link using URL shortener. So let's pretend for a second, this is my dummy document now, that I have added this link and I want to share the link with somebody. So I can right click and, oops, not right click, sorry. Where is it? Oh, I had not added it yet. So we have the ability to actually shorten these links directly within the document, and I'll double check on the process for that and add an addendum if it's something that we actually can do. Otherwise, you should be able to do this within a regular Google account, even if we can't do it within our Harker. The last thing I want to cover on this is just the idea of commenting versus suggesting. So often when people share, this is not a good example. Let me open a new document. So come on. It's too trigger happy. If I'm going to share this, and Keith and Rosalind, I'm going to share this with you now. It's just going to be an untitled document for now, because for the sake of time. But when I share it and I give you editing rights, I then also have the ability to force you to be, oh, that's why. I can give anyone an ability or force myself to be a suggester or a viewer. So when I click on suggesting, it changes whatever comments or whatever I write into a suggestion. And then the owner can come back and either accept the suggestion or reject it. And this is in lieu of, or sometimes in addition to, a comment. So I find this to be more helpful than commenting, just because oftentimes when you're sharing something with someone, you want them to give input. And I find it frustrating when when I want input and then somebody replies back to me with a whole list of information, and then I have to compare that email against the document that I have, when we can actually work within the document itself and you can add all of those comments and suggestions directly in. Which is something Microsoft has had for a long time, but it's kind of not always addressed with Google. So we talked a little bit about My Drive and Shared With Me, and that's the Shared With Me stuff are one-off documents that are shared with you. But then we also have shared drives, and these used to be called team drives. So in My Drive, an individual can have editing, commenting, or viewing rights to a folder, or but those are usually going to be used for one-off sharing. So for us, like, we have this 1920 faculty dance, right? This is just for this year. It's a specific group of people that's not going to roll over from year to year, and it's just a useful, housing place for all of our practice videos. Shared drives, on the other hand, the people within that shared drive, there is no singular owner of the folder. And so it makes it kind of a more democratic process. But you also have to think about whether or not that particular group is going to roll over from year to year. So in my case, like, I've got the LID team, we have a shared drive. We had a Harker Infinite Campus implementation team that definitely rolled over a few years. And then the Life Parent Portal, some middle school LID migration and resources. So this was really useful when Scott was leaving and Abigail was coming in. So Scott and I created this shared drive, and then all I had to do when Scott left was remove Scott from the shared drive and add Abigail in, and then she had all of the access to all of the folders and everything that we could work through. It also means that if I fall off the end of the planet, or I take my folder and I run, everybody else doesn't lose access to it, because the most access anybody has is this manager role. And that allows for management of content, members, and settings. But, excuse me, but everybody else can be a content manager who can still add, edit, move, and delete files. And at the end of the day, the shared drives stay. And that, I think, is helpful. There are some shared drive global settings. So what I mean by that is when I click on just one particular drive, this little drop down, this little caret, gives me shared drive settings. So these are people outside the Harker School can be given access to the files in this shared drive or not. So especially like in counseling, you could have a counseling shared drive, and then nobody outside Harker School can be given access to the files in the shared drive. Non-members can be given, now the LID drive one is pretty open-ended, but how it stands right now is that non-members can be given access to individual files in the shared drive. Allow commenters and viewers to download, copy, and print files in this shared drive. So you can even lock down the ability for commenters and viewers to download, to copy, to print, and so that it is strictly and completely view only within the drive, and you have to be a member of the drive. And by being a member of the drive, that means you're a Harker employee. And so there's quite a bit of lockdown available in shared drives, which I think is handy. So My Drive and shared drive tips. The shared with me documents can be added to My Drive and is recommended for searching purposes. You want to think about preferred ownership long-term when using the shared drive. And let's say you have a group of people you want to regularly share with, but not having a shared drive. You can create a group at groups.google.com and add members to that group, and then use the group email. So what that looks like, I created one yesterday just so that I could show you today. But but if I go to my groups, so lid team test, so what I did here is I created the group, which was a pretty straightforward process. And then I direct added some members. So I added Lisa and Diane and Abigail, and they got those invites, and they were all added as a member. But then what happened is that it gave me this handy group email address called lid team test, and I got to choose what I wanted that to be called at staff.harker.org. So now if I come over here and I click share, then I can say lid team test, and it already pre-slugs it. Now, what you need to know is that whatever rights I give here are the rights that everybody within this group are then going to be given. So this is basically like a group alias. So now Abigail and Diane and Lisa are all going to have editing rights to this document by me using this group email. I click send, they're now all going to get emails, and that's just a quick and easy way to make a shorthand group email. Couple things I want to show you around docs themselves, just so that you're aware. Version history, insert, tools, and add-ons. The version history itself, if you go to File and then Version History, you can name particular versions, which if you have a document that's long-term or it's edited on a regular basis, or say you update it every single year, you can keep the same document, just name a new version. So for instance, I can say that this is the December 2019 version, and then I can even go back and say, I want to see my version history. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to restore this version. And I want to name this current version. We're going to pretend I made this in November. So when I go to see version history, I now see that it was created December 10th, and then at 11:35, and then the December 2019 version I named, and it included that, and then I restored the original one and I named it November 2019. So it shows this chronological experience, even though I restored that initial 11:35 document, it indicates that I had restored it from that time, still names it. So it's almost like it's a new version, simply because that was the point at which I named it. I don't know, I'm hoping that makes sense. So naming them really is helpful. One of the things I want to show you, and I'm going to show you in these particular slides, is when you're in slides, which is the version of presentations, you can within here import slides from other presentations. So one of the things that I do a lot is I use the same thank you at the end, and I change it periodically, but oops. So if I go to import slides, it's going to show me all of the slide decks that I have. And excuse me, this was an Infinite Campus Messaging for Coaches presentation I did with the same template, but I did a thank you at the end of it. And so I could take that and just click import slides, and it will dump that slide right in, and then I can make whatever changes or tweaks I want to make to it without having to drag and drop or pull it over in some other way. So I'm gonna take that out of the presentation for now, but you get the idea. Oops. And then I'm not sure if you were aware of this, but if you go insert image, you can upload from your computer, but you can also search the web directly. So if I wanted to find a picture of Earth, I can do that. In addition, I can pull from Drive, from Photos, by URL, or by using the camera. I've seen a lot of classes go paperless by having their students create slide decks, and what they're doing, like in their science class in terms of their lab reports, is just use the camera to take pictures of either their lab report, their written lab report, or in some other format. So I find that to be somewhat helpful. Also, good to know you can voice type your speaker notes. So if you're putting together a presentation and you want to add some speaker notes, I can click here and click on voice type speaker notes, click on the microphone, and now I can start typing what I'm actually going to say on this particular slide, and it becomes a lot more natural for the speaker notes to exist there because it's what I would most likely be saying. Click. Right, so what it looks like now is terrible because that's terrible English and I was just sort of rambling, but the idea is, I think there. And Explore is an interesting one, especially in Sheets, but Explore gives you lots of suggestions for how to add consistency and design in your presentation itself. Last but not least is add-ons. And with add-ons, these are things that you can literally add on to your slides or your documents. The add-ons for slides are different than for documents or sheets, because what you would do in a slide deck versus a spreadsheet or a document are functionally different. So I'll come back over here and show you, like, well, this is a good example. So here, my add-ons, I've got Pear Deck and Easy Accents. While over here, I have like DocuSign and HelloFax, and I have Easy Accents over here as well, but also Math Type to easily insert or edit a math equation or a chem formula. All you have to do is click on Get Add-ons, and you can search through and see EasyBib and see all sorts of other options to use within the document itself. And also has a consistency checker, and it's not just for grammar, but tense, you know, past tense, present tense, things like that that are that can be helpful. So let's go back to presenting. Oops. Just one second. Okay. So tools, add-ons, covered those. Okay. So one last thing I want to show you, and this is the eyedropper Chrome extension. And I'm going to send out these slides along with the recording later. But this particular slide, this is a link that will open up the Chrome extension called eyedropper. And this is just, I just like it because I really like to have the colors of presentations or things be very consistent. It's probably a little bit of the really detail focused parts of me. But in particular, like when I'm trying to get the perfect Harker green in a presentation, then all I have to do is actually go to harker.org. And when I download that eyedropper tool, it shows up here in my Chrome list of extensions. And once this loads, I'm trying to close other things, so come on. Let's say I really like this particular pink. I can click on the eyedropper and choose pick color from page. Let me try that again. Pick color from page. There we go. And now as I have my crosshairs, so you can pretend that I'm on the Harker website or whatever, and I'm flying over any one of these colors, and you can see up at the top that every color I roll over gives me, it shows me what the color is. But let's say I really want this blue, right? So I click on that, and now the color is copied to the clipboard. When I click here, I see the color picker and also the picked color history. So I can click on this, and it gives me, oftentimes when you are in anywhere where you want to change the color of something, so let's say I want to change the color of this. I can choose custom, and it's going to ask me for this hex code, right? That is a couple of letters and 4 digits. Well, if I come over here and go to my picked color history, there's a £sign or a hash mark. So if I copy that and put it here, now it's going to give me exactly that same blue that I had pulled from the color picker. So it's kind of a fun, handy way to get that really perfect color match, which I know has nothing to do with Drive necessarily, but it does. It's something that is useful, and it's within the Chrome extensions, and I use it fairly regularly within Google Slides. So that's all I have, and I have about 5 minutes if you have any particular questions or anything that you want me to address. I know I kind of flew through a lot of this. Anything? Anything? Okay. Well, then I appreciate you coming or watching if you watch it later. And let me know if you have any questions, or let your lid director know if you have any questions about anything related to Google Drive and docs and slides and sheets and forms and all that good stuff. Thanks. Bye.